back, Dev Talks podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us today, running for governor of Missouri. It is Bill Eigel. How are you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's go, Missouri.
Yeah. So let's get in. Let's get started. I know we're kind of on some crunch time here. So I'm hearing you want to do some stuff with personal property tax. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it is. And, everything about my campaign is really driven from ideas,
Mhm.
the ideas that we can get to a Missouri that is going to be better than the one that we're living in today. And it's based on the principles of the GOP brand, and actually not just leaving them behind when campaign season's over, but actually implementing them when we're governing down in Jefferson City. And probably, as you just mentioned, the number one issue that I get that probably the most excitement about is this idea I have that we're going to get rid of personal property tax in this state. You're actually going to own your car. You're actually not going to have to pay rent to government anymore on December 1st. 29 other states have already gotten rid of personal property tax on their vehicles. Missouri is going to be the 30th state. And we have plenty of money going to government right now in the state. All the problems we have in the state, none of them have anything to do with government not getting enough of your cash somewhere. So we're going to get rid of personal property tax. And when we're done with that, we're getting rid of income tax in this state. And we're going to take our place alongside the Tennessees and the Texases and the Floridas that are leading this country right now. You're going to be hearing about Missouri real soon.
Well, good, because what we need is strong conservative leaders that have a voice, that are willing to stand up against the crowd, drain the swamp. As we've seen, the swamp is hard and they hit back hard.
Mhm.
What are some things that are you going to do to ensure these conservative values stay in Missouri?
It's we have a very fractured Republican Party right now.
Yes.
And one of the reasons, the number one, and really the main reason that the Republican Party is so fractured is because we have senior leadership in this state that calls on Republicans to do non-Republican things.
Mhm.
For example, when you have a Republican governor calling on the Republicans in Jefferson City to raise the gas tax 12 and a half
Yeah.
cents, raising our tax burden with the largest tax increase that we've ever seen by $500 million, it fractures the Republican parties, because you've got guys like me, folks like you, and a lot of folks that are listening to us right
Mhm.
now that didn't sign up for that.
Mhm.
When you have a governor that's doubled the size of the state budget, wasting tens of billions of dollars on things that nobody thinks is a good idea, you fracture the Republican Party, because that's not what we promised we were going to be in campaign season. So
Mhm.
when you have a Republican governor that stands by and does nothing while initiative petition reform fails in the Missouri Senate, while the minimum wage is getting higher and higher, and from these attacks on the constitutional ballot, this absence of leadership is fracturing the party. So what I'm going to do to fix it, because I have been kind of an outspoken guy that's
Yes.
always kind of been rubbing against the grain, is I'm going to do that. What is lacking right now, I'm going to call on Republicans to do Republican things. I mean, look at the difference between Missouri and Florida and Tennessee and Texas is not that those states don't have rhinos in their legislature. It's not that they don't have moderate Republicans that, if given an opportunity, would betray the Republican brand at the drop of a hat. The difference in those states is that they have bold conservative Republican governors
Mm.
that don't take any grief from the status quo, that doesn't want to change, and are calling on the Republicans in their states to act like Republicans, or if they don't, they're calling them out and holding them accountable. I've been trying to do that from the Missouri Senate for 8 years, which has made me one of the most hated guys in Jefferson City. But there is a new day on the horizon that Republicans are going to do Republican things, and the Republican Party is going to be united as a result.
Well, that's great, because that is a lot of people's concerns around here. Is we have a bunch of campaign conservatives, but
Mhm.
whenever it comes down, they water down legislation.
Yep.
And they betray the values that we stand on. We just talked a little bit about this initiative petition reform. You have been one of
Yeah.
the biggest champions of this house. Tell us a little bit about what happened with that and why it failed.
Well, and it failed, and saying that it failed, it's almost like Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
We see this over and over every year. The Freedom Caucus worked very hard to get this to the 1 yard line
Mhm.
in the legislative session. We were leveraging the entire chamber to force it to move the bill through the process, send it to the House, get it back to the Senate. And we were so unpopular with our Senate leadership team. They took our chairmanships. I was the chairman of the Veterans Committee. I was stripped of that chairmanship. They took our parking spaces.
Oh
So,
my.
I mean, they were being petty, and they were really demeaning themselves, because they were so angry that we had the audacity to hold them accountable. But we did. Ultimately we got it down to the 1 yard line, and then they fumbled the ball. They
And
fumbled
got
the
a kickback.
ball. We had the sponsor of the bill, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman, decided to withdraw her motion to take a final vote on that. To this day, I can't explain what possessed her to do that. That was a betrayal, and that left it in the hands of our pro tem, Caleb Rowden, who's been one of the most liberal Republicans to serve in the Missouri Senate, and that was it. And
Mm.
so I think that all of these folks, especially the Jefferson City types that were celebrating the failure of that initiative petition bill, had no concept that they're actually making my case for me.
Yeah.
They're making the case of a Bill Eigel and me going around the state saying we're not going to get anything big red things done until we get rid of all these rhinos. And the Missouri that I'm talking about, the Missouri where we're going to cut personal property taxes or defend our farmland from being bought out by foreign countries, or the Missouri where we're deporting every one of these 70,000 illegal immigrants that have come to the state of Missouri. The only thing standing in between us and that Missouri are a couple of my establishment candidate opponents in this gubernatorial race for governor. So we're gonna win, and it's gonna be a new day down in Jefferson City.
Well, we were talking, like you just said, about the foreign land ownership. So I hear that old Kung Pao Kehoe, he did vote. he did vote for foreign ownership of Missouri land 4 times.
4 times. I mean, he actually is on record voting to allow 270,000 acres of Missouri ground to be bought by any foreign entity. And actually, this was in 2013. This was actually to facilitate a deal of the sale of one of our largest food suppliers, Smithfield Foods, up in Northwest Missouri, which wanted to sell their company along with 50,000 agricultural acres to a Chinese conglomerate. When Mike Kehoe voted and got that bill passed, that became that deal happened. And here we are today. So, to see Mike Kehoe now trying to explain how he's against China owning our land, this guy's been a used car salesman for 30 years. I mean, he's pretty good at the old shuffle dance there. I mean, he's around he's actually going into our rural communities and telling folks that he's a first generation cattle rancher. That's what he's actually telling folks. I mean, here's a guy that is a 30-year used car salesman that lives in suburban Jefferson City with a in-ground pool and a swim-up bar, telling people that he's actually a cattle rancher. And he thinks that if he puts on a cowboy hat and hops on the back of a horse, that people are going to be fooled by that nonsense. Well, the folks that I'm talking to, which are the actual Republicans that are going to vote in this election, they know his record. We not only call him Kung Pao Kehoe, we call him Tax Hike Mike, because he's never met a tax that he wasn't willing to increase. So my message of a Missouri that's stronger, a Missouri that's cutting the tax burden, defending our farmland, deporting the illegals, protecting our schools and the children in our schools, people are buying into that message. And I think the swamp is going to be unpleasantly surprised on August 6th.
And I think so too. And around here, you have a lot of support because you are strong on these conservative values. With a strong conservative leader comes the federal government and the overreach that they are going to try to bring into Missouri. What are some things you're going to do to hold their feet to the fire, so to say?
Well, so the biggest thing we can do to push back on the federal government is stop taking all these federal dollars. These borrowed and printed dollars coming out of Washington, D.C. Half of our budget is actually made up of federal money for us to pay our bills. That's a higher percentage of the budget for a state budget than any other state in the union. I mean, think about that. That means we're more dependent on the feds to meet our budgetary obligations than California, than New York, than Illinois. That's crazy. Nobody in the Republican primary signed up for that. And that's exactly where Mike Parson and Mike Kehoe and Jay Ashcroft have all brought us to, because they're all part of the same establishment. They're all part of the same status quo, trying to convince the people of this state that somehow they're going to be different from the past 20 years of a center-left fiscal agenda that's just made government bigger and bigger in this state. So it's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. And what am I going to do? Well, the governor writes the budget, has line item veto authority over the budget, and has withhold authority over the budget. I'm going to stop taking all that federal money. We're going to stop all the money coming from the federal Department of Education that includes these mandates to teach our kids about transgenderism and other mental illnesses. And we're going to be bold about that. And when we do that, we're going to get a sovereign Missouri that's in a better position to resist the next COVID environment that we know is going to come our way. We just don't know what it looks like yet. So folks aren't looking for more platitudes. They're looking for a fighter, a disruptor. I mean, that's why Donald J. Trump is winning the country right now on the idea of being a disruptor for Washington, D.C. I'm going to be that disruptor of the status quo down in Jefferson City pretty soon. All the Ron DeSantis's of the world who, listen, I'm a big fan of all these bold conservative governors in other states. Those governors are going to wake up and turn their TVs on one morning and say, how can they be like the show me state? And they're going to follow our lead.
And that's what Missouri needs. Missouri needs to be on par, if not above Florida, above Texas. Governor Abbott, he has been down there at the border. He has been fighting against the federal government with this immigration stuff going on.
That's right.
What are some things Missouri can do to help with this, to keep the immigration problem out of our state?
The great question. And we, like I said, we have about 70,000 illegal immigrants in the state of Missouri. And all I hear from my opponents are sending thoughts and prayers down to the border wall in Texas. And while, don't get me wrong, I'm going to continue to send our National Guard down to the border. We're going to help out our neighboring states because that's who we are as part of these United States. I'm the only one talking about what are we going to do about illegal immigration in the state of Missouri. Here's what I'm going to do. On day one, I'm going to declare an invasion of the state of Missouri, which I'm authorized to do as governor under Article 4 of the Missouri Constitution. And that's going to allow me to direct the Highway Patrol, the National Guard, and every sheriff in this state to start detaining and deporting every single one of these 70,000 illegal immigrants who are costing our state billions of dollars. In fact, folks ask me, well, when we talk about the personal property tax, what are you going to do to replace the personal property tax, right? As if we need more money going to government. You know, the cost of those 70,000 illegal immigrants is actually more to the taxpayers of the state than the value of what we take in on personal property tax.
Perfect.
So
fixing a problem by fixing another
two
problem.
birds with one stone. We're going to get rid of the illegals and we're going to get rid of personal property tax. So it's been very, I've met a lot of folks that are frustrated. They're angry about the state of Missouri and the fact that we have these do nothing, go along, get along Republicans down in Jefferson City. My message to them, if you find yourself disappointed and angry, I just want you to know you're not alone. I have met tens of thousands of Republicans in every corner of this state. And I think on August 6th, they're going to stand up and they're collectively going to deliver a shock to the Jefferson City crowd that cannot imagine that a guy like me and a group of patriots from every corner of this state are really going to change the world by making Missouri a leader in these United States.
That's awesome. And, I think you hit it on the head. What is the establishment going to do whenever they have someone in there that isn't bought and paid for, who won't accept the checks coming in?
That's right.
That's
right. Their heads are going to explode. They're going to call me sorts of names. That's okay. They've been, these guys and gals down there have been attacking me for 8 years. They understand that I mean what I say, that I became exactly who I promised back in campaign season. And they're terrified of that because right now it's their very powerful corporate special interests that are benefiting from the billions of dollars in money that we're wasting. So they're benefiting from that.
Yes.
They know that I represent the end of that and a restoration of a Missouri that we keep asking for on the first Tuesday of November every other year. So, the fear is strong in them right now. And as I'm continuing to creep up in the polls, and now we're within striking distance, the fear is rampant in the hallways of Jefferson City.
Good. And they should be shaking in their boots for what's to come.
Well,
thank you, Bill, for this interview. This has been my interview with Bill Eigel. Anything you want to say to the people? Where do they find you if they want to donate?
Go to BillEigel.com. So all of my policy planks are on there. There's forms you can put on there if you want a yard sign. If you would like to volunteer for the campaign for even just getting a yard sign out in your yard, volunteering for events, go to BillEigel.com and sign up for that. We've had almost 40,000 people sign up on our website. We've got thousands of volunteers across the state of Missouri that are knocking doors, making phone calls. Let's go, Missouri.
Yes. And like I said, this is not an election. This is a revolution. This is the people speaking out against the establishment, and they are going to talk with their voice or with their vote.
Yep, you got it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in today. We appreciate it. I will see you in West Plains and see you at Summersville.
Awesome.